Welcome to the Biz Gone Social Podcast. We help entrepreneurs navigate how to get known, get customers, and get the edge over their competition. Here is your host, Lorraine Duncan.
So here we are on the Biz Gone Social Podcast, and I am so glad to be here. And my promise to you, as always, is I just want to give you a little bit of verbal caffeine that will energize your business and your social media marketing and help you stay social. After all, don't you want to be the business that everyone's talking about? And I know I certainly do. And I am actually so stoked to have Jan Jeremias with me today. Welcome, Jan.
Hi, how are you, Lorraine?
I am great. I am really looking forward to this. I enjoy everything that you always share, and I've seen you and I've seen your book, and I just want you to tell my audience a little bit about who you are and what you do.
So I'm Jan Jeremias, and I am multiple things, but the thing I focus on the most is working with animals. So I am basically like a pet wellness person. People have wellness coaches or health coaches for themselves all the time. I think of myself like that for pets, on all aspects, from, helping people navigate just the supplement world, from, making sure their pets get enough exercise and ideas for that, to directing them where they need to go if their pet has an illness or something going on. I'm a good funnel for that. I'm the co-author of 3 books on essential oils for pets. So yes, I probably will make some essential oil recommendations in that. And I do Reiki, energy work, gentle massage. I've been working with animals for over 15 years. And so I love what I do. Nothing gives me greater joy than to sit down with a pet. I think I have the best world ever that I get to do that every day. So it's a little bit about what I do.
That's awesome. I was just wondering, how did you get into being, having such a love for pets and wanting to help them and help their owners with their pets?
So I think I've loved pets my entire life. I mean, my mother always says that, I was the kid that would go up to anything, and any dog, didn't matter, size, shape. I mean, I was also a cat person, but I was not afraid of anything, and probably sometimes scared her to death because I would go up to these dogs. But now I would not tell children to do that, but that was me. I think always had that love for pets. And then years ago, when my dog was ill, I didn't want to do, or I was not really satisfied in what was being offered to her as far as traditional veterinary medicine. And I decided, with some encouragement from some friends, to explore some of the more natural routes. So to Reiki and essential oils, and they really helped her. And that kind of opened my eyes to a very different world. It is not how I grew up. I didn't grow up in a, holistic or natural. I grew up in a very traditional medical world. I worked in traditional health, but it was really, animals are wonderful to work with, because when you work on them in that way, you automatically see it and you see the results. So it was really beautiful. And that just made me want to explore more. And the more people came to me, whether it be friends or just people I would meet, the more I realized how powerful all the different modalities could be. And that it was a really great way to support animals through whatever it was. I mean, I love working with pets that are not ill, actually, and don't have an issue, trying to encourage people to be a little bit more proactive in their pet wellness, like they should be in themselves. Uh-huh. But most of my clients don't think like that. They think very much like, okay, my pet has this, or I have this, and I'm going to, all of a sudden I'm going to explore other non-traditional modalities. And for me, I'm like, well, why can't we think about it now before it happens? So that's really how I moved in.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was just thinking as your dog kind of peeked his nose through, he must know that you're talking about this. Uh,
He's very funny because usually when I talk about pets, my voice changes, or I talk to a pet if I'm on Zoom with someone and I'm talking about their pet and their pets, and he always comes over. He's like, "Who are you talking to? That's not me." It's really funny.
yeah, you know, as you mentioned something that's so important is that we have the habit of just putting ourselves last. Meaning when it comes to healthcare and that we all know, and it's been proven that if we could do a little bit of preventative here and a little bit of preventative here, that we won't get those big illnesses. And it's interesting you say the same thing for a dog or a cat or whatever animal you have. And it's so true. Like if you go and you take care of your pets and they go for their regular, veterinarian visits and they get everything they're supposed to get. And then you do that extra, like, some, like with us, we'll take vitamins or we'll take supplements. But I think I think dogs would live longer, cats would live longer, and they would die more gracefully, I would assume, because, they're not having this crazy illness that could have been prevented all along.
Absolutely. And I think one of the gifts of working with animals, especially when you have an animal that's a purebred. So let's say you have a specific breed of a dog. There is enough documentation out there on those breeds that tells you, oh, these dogs are prone to getting, or these cats are prone to getting this illness. So and I think that wouldn't be a gift to kind of look at those and say, okay, how am I going to address them now? My dog's only 9 months old, 10 months old, a year old, as opposed to waiting for them to develop this issue. And I look at it as being such a gift. I mean, yes, we have our genetics, and yes, we can look at our family history. And some people do, as far as themselves, saying, okay, well, my mother or my father or my cousin passed away of this or had this. But with dogs and cats and other animals, we have the same gift. I mean, we're given if you have a mixed breed dog, that's not necessarily true unless you do genetic profiling or cat, but you have the ability, even just as basics, good nutrition, stress management, exercise, keeping weight down. Weight is a huge issue. Over 60% of animals in the US, dogs and cats, are obese and kind of fits, and obesity comes with all its other issues. And so keeping weight down, like there's so much we can do to give them better quality of life.
Yeah, I find that actually fascinating because you said that, they do know, like certain breeds, they have certain types of illnesses. Like I forget which breed it is, but one of them, they're prone to like having back issues. And then there's I believe I might want to say that I always had a love for like Irish settlers, but I never got one because everybody said, oh, you don't want to get one because they're like really hyper or whatever. And I think about this now as how I met you, is I know that you happen to be like a wellness advocate with essential oils. And interestingly enough, there's some oils that actually could help with being hyper, would be able to calm you down. So, certain smells will help you with that. And it's interesting and plus the chemistry that's involved. And, without claiming any cure right away. But I mean, I know, for instance, that lavender has always calmed me down. And so who knows, with studies and everything, what it could do for an animal. I had a pet here living with me for a little while that happened to like On Guard. I mean, how does that happen? I mean, was so scared to come out, was so afraid of people, would always stay in my son's room and then would come out when I diffused On Guard, which I found to be fascinating. So, I mean, I think there's a lot to that whole, knowing what each animal has and take care of them accordingly. Some dogs don't get walked enough. Maybe that would help with obesity. Maybe you don't feed them like 6 bowls of food a day and give them table food. So it's all that, I think absolutely is fascinating. I'm going to switch gears and just go into a few other things so we can touch all the bases that I just think it's important, because this is a podcast about businesses. And you also are a wellness advocate with doTERRA, and you've co-authored books with other people who were part of doTERRA. And interestingly enough, what I like about you is that you have other modalities that you use. You mentioned them earlier. You have all these letters after your name. When I was reading your bio, and it's like, okay, I'm not even going to try to announce all that, because I don't even know what all of them are without having to look them up. But the bottom line is you see in human life, you see the need for, the preventative, for taking care of yourself now, basically, so your body takes care of itself later. And you see all these oils, and you probably use them in your life. And so, as being a business owner, and with your pets, with your doTERRA and the other stuff you do, I know you're a yoga teacher. What do you think is, what do you, I sense that you were more passionate about the pet, so, but there's people out there that are starting out and doing things. How do you get clients? It's hard. I know for me, I'm always out there getting clients, but how do you get clients?
I would say the most likely way for me to get clients is in my animal work is by personal referral. I'm finding I'm starting to do a lot more collaboration with other pet businesses or with other people, as pets are in our life very much so. And if anything, after the past 2 years, even more so. I think the latest thing I read was that there are now 108 million dogs in the US. That's a lot of animals. That's one dog for every 3 humans.
Wow.
That's a lot of animals. And I think I think that alone, so those numbers make me say, okay, and I think it's really valid what I do. And I'm really pleased that I chose this path. And so this is the right direction I should be going in. Also, just networking, speaking to people, realizing you never know who you're going to speak to. For example, they might not have a pet, but they might know someone who has a pet. And since the statistics of people having pets is very high now, I do spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. Of late, I really find it a useful place to navigate the, pet businesses. I have a Facebook group for, people that are pet oriented, that have pets. So much more like the pet owner or the caretaker. I don't like to say owner. The pet person who has a pet at home or who works with animals specifically. So I do all of those things and find it helpful. I think co-authoring the book was, really advantageous. Recently, I got asked to write a pet column for 2 local magazines. So I think you never say no to anything, basically, like, be open that somehow it's going to, help you. And then also, I find that in the business world, as much as I can help someone else, that's even more gratifying to me. So I kind of have gotten myself out of the picture, and I kind of don't go in with that. To me, much more the focus is going to be what's their business and how can I help them, because I figure eventually it's going to come back. It's somehow going to make its way back to me. And if it doesn't, it doesn't, and that's fine too. But how best can I help someone else who has a business?
Absolutely. I hope everybody's listening out there, because Jan said some really important things. One is, she said word of mouth. The other thing she said was getting out there and talking to people. Because why? Because you never know who you're going to meet. And then she made herself available on some of the social media platforms, such as LinkedIn. And she has a Facebook group. These are all ways. And then she said the one big thing is, because I believe what she really said is never say no to an opportunity. When an opportunity comes your way, you want to make sure that you are taking advantage of it. And that, I mean, seriously, your main goal is not, to write books on business, and you're not an expert on business. However, you are, because anybody who manages a business needs to be an expert on business, because they need to know how they're going to market themselves. So that was awesome. I mean, I'm like, you just lit me up there, because for many reasons you've lit me up today. But to be honest with you, is that a lot of people struggle out there with how to do their business, whether it's time management or what to market or how to have their message or say their message. But your message, you know that you want to help other pet caretakers, and you want to help pets, and because you have a deep love and passion for them. We all have, we all like to tell the good stories about our businesses, and there's so many, but we never talk about our biggest challenge with being in business for ourselves, other than some of the obvious ones, is like, always trying to get that client, or maybe not making enough money in a certain month that we need to. What would you say is your biggest challenge right now, especially coming out of the pandemic?
Ooh, it's a tough one. Actually, I think, for a long time, networking, I was never a network person. I tend to be on the quiet side if I'm not talking about work. So I'm not the most social of people. And I think that was a huge hurdle for me to get over. And the way I got over it was the way that the last thing I mentioned was getting outside of myself and really looking at who could I help? Who could I go out there, and what could I do for their business, and who could I connect them with? It kind of got me out of my own head and out of my own self to go out and think about someone else. And
Right.
Personally, I don't really think there's enough at the moment there. I think kindness might be lacking. And, to me, is how kind can I be to other people, and how much can I help them? Yes. And I have the obvious things of like, having slower months than others or whatever. And I think we all have that. And I think finding a way to kind of deal with that, and, even keep track of it, so that, if January was a slow month last year and the year before, just knowing that when January comes around, and kind of, excuse me, knowing that, okay, this might, not to say it will, but, it's like, okay, it's January. I've either got to do something to shift that, or if it does happen, can't freak out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's so funny because, 9 out of 10 business owners will always say that they have their one bad month. My brother-in-law's a landscaper. Well, wintertime is always kind of slow, unless you have a plowing business. But even so, if you live in a place where you never know when it's going to snow, and because living in Connecticut, yes, we get snow, but we don't get snow every day. So you're looking forward just for that little warmth, for the, let it snow just 1 or 2 times so I can get my plow out there and make a little bit of money, So, but you said something really important, and I think that everybody should take heed to this, that you have to come from a place of service. So wanting to serve others. And I think that you said it beautifully. You had to literally get outside of yourself to move into that place of, number one, networking, and number two, putting yourself in the place of service and wanting to help somebody else. And then you said one other key thing that I think is really important is kindness. And it's funny. I hired somebody in January, December, January, and I onboarded them in January, and literally I had to put together what my company culture is going to be. And the very first thing that I put on my company culture was kindness, because I think that goes a long way, even when it comes to customer service, which is so lacking in our country today, is that customer service piece. It's either dial 1 for this, dial 2 for this, and sorry, if you have anything else, we really can't help you. So dial 0 for this, and that's how it usually is. I love the knowledge you have and everything that you said today. And I think too, one other piece of this is the books that you wrote. When you write a book, it brings credibility automatically. And I think a lot, but I don't encourage everybody out there just to go out and write a book just to gain credibility. Write a book on something that you're really passionate about, that you really care about, that really means a lot to you. And it seems like you have done that. And so what I want to ask you is, if there's probably somebody listening, maybe a business owner, maybe somebody who is thinking of going into their business. What is one piece of advice that you could give them as they step into this journey or in this journey of being in business for themselves?
One is obviously be passionate about what you do. I think it's a lot harder. I can't envision being in business and not being passionate about what you're in business about. That just doesn't, whether, especially if you're doing, and personally, I think we're all in sales, but especially because we all have something we want to share with other people. But I think especially if you're doing something like where you're selling products or whatever, unless you believe in them, to me, I wouldn't be able to talk about it. It would feel false. And then the other thing, and so that leads to being authentic. Like, be authentic, be yourself. Everybody's unique. Everybody has a different take or a different way they come to something or they approach something. So even if somebody out there is doing the same business that you want to do, you're going to bring your own flavor to it, your own uniqueness to it. There's not one person on the planet that's just like you, and you're going to speak to a different audience.
Absolutely. Jan, I just want to thank you so much for being a part of the Biz Gone Social podcast. And I'm sure there's someone out there that's listening that may need some help when it comes to their pets, or they're thinking of getting a pet and they may need some coaching along the lines of that. How would somebody get in touch with you?
The best way is via my website or LinkedIn. If they're on LinkedIn, is actually a really great way. LinkedIn Messenger, I check it all the time. Facebook Messenger. If you wanted to reach me via email, you could email me at jan@aroma, AROMALOTUS.com. And I think on my LinkedIn profile, there is my phone number. So you could always text me, call me. I'm more than open to speak to people and set up a time to chat. Or if you have any questions, I'm really happy to do that. Just answer questions.
Awesome. And what I'll do is I will put all the links in below in the social media posts. And I want, again, thank you again. And to everyone out there, thank you for listening to the Biz Gone Social podcast. And if you have any questions or need any help, just feel free to reach me at Lorraine@bizgonesocial.com. Even if you were able to get all that down, I'm going to put all the links to Jan's stuff in this podcast. And I can connect you directly to her. Have a good week, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Biz Gone Social podcast. Find us on Instagram at Biz Gone Social for extra tips. Check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, stay social.